Hey Wolfpack, Angela Wolf here, and we are in the studio. Today we are sewing, well, today we're actually cutting the new skirt. So I'll give you a little preview of what I found. Here you go. Remember I was trying to find lining that had white and black. So if you missed that, you have to watch last week's episode. So take a look, tell me what you think. What is your vote? All right, I'll wait for that. In the meantime, it's so nice to see you all. I am live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch, and I can see all your comments. So it's so nice to see you all. You were all rolling in even before I even logged in. Even better. So did you have a good weekend? The nice long weekend. In case you missed my live show on Brother yesterday, it's nice to see you. All right, so we've got a couple sew-alongs planned starting this week. First up is the tweed skirt. I'm super into the Chanel-like style right now, and I just think it's going to be a lot of fun. So I fit a new muslin since I saw you last. Remember, I was like, I wasn't sure if the skirt that I had the pattern for was the right length, and I also made it for a ponte knit. And now I'm going to make it out of a non-stretchable tweed fabric. So I found some lining. I happen to, so Wynn and I, Mom, you're calling me on video in case you're watching. Just so you know, I can't answer right now, but I love you dearly. All right. So right now, Wynn and I are dumping everything from the basement, getting ready for my in-person class in a couple weeks. So getting rid of all the stuff that was ruined, which is like a bittersweet, right? You got to get rid of it because it's gross. And some of the shelving was ruined, all that. So the dumpster is on its way and everything's getting thrown out. In the meantime, I'm thinking I need something glamorous, which is why I'm thinking a Chanel skirt with a little jacket, Chanel-like, by the way. I have no affiliation to Chanel, but you know what I'm talking about. The beautiful tweeds with the quilted lining and all that. So that's on my list. So in between sweating from running up and down the stairs, I'm going to make a fabulous skirt. All right, so what do you think? Do you like the lining? I think it turned out pretty cute, actually. So how I found it, as we were cleaning the basement, I have a lot of bins, a lot of my fabrics in bins, and a lot of it see-through bins. Thankfully, that stuff didn't get ruined. But I'm looking through and I'm like, wait, there's that fabric. So the fabric I was thinking of was actually, Karina, it was white with letters, which would have been really cool. But I'd already used it for another jacket, so I only had about this much fabric left. So the piece you see there, I bought it at Vogue Fabrics many years ago. It's even labeled 100% silk. I'd already steam pressed it and everything. So it's a little wrinkly. I'm going to take you over to the Laura Star and show you how I can press this, all those layers in like seconds. And then I'll show you my muslin, how I fit it. You'll see how I transfer those markings to my muslin and use my muslin as a pattern. I get so many questions about that. So we've already done skirt fitting and all of that in the Fashion Sewing Club. If you need help with that, you might want to join the club. We have a lot of fun. And don't forget our live show tomorrow at 2 for that. All right, so let me take you over here. It looks like the vote is pretty good. You love the lining, Lynn? Thank you. Oh, yeah. Hey, by the way, before I come back here, I'm just seeing Susie's comment. Wolfpack, you blew me away. So SMP Nation, which you all know starts next week, I looked at the finals of who submitted outfits, and we've got like so many of you, and I'm so proud of you all. So don't forget to vote. I'll put a link here. I'm also going to put a link in the Angela Patterns group. So if you submitted an outfit, I'll have one post in there and just put below that you're in there so people can look for you. So I saw so many of your things and they're absolutely drop dead gorgeous. So I wish there could be more than one winner in there for the big sewing room, but let's keep our fingers crossed and let's go vote. So if somebody in the Wolfpack wins. So I'll post that in our Angela Patterns group a little bit later. Okay. All right. Everybody's saying, I love your entries. So I know Zena's in there. I know Susie's in there. I know Clovis. I saw Clovis. Oh gosh, there's like 10 of you, I think. I was scrolling through them last night. I was like, oh, I'm so proud of this group. There, this Susie's in there. Yeah. And she says, thanks for the vote. So Zena's in there, Clovis. Who else? Karen Meyer's in there. I saw her. Oh my gosh, that Rachel you made is gorgeous. Dania's in there with that beautiful dress she made and hand dyed for her daughter. Amy Datema had a really cool. So I was trying to think. It's not quilted. It's repurposing denim, but it was like a real interesting weave on the back. Amy, I have a feeling I'm going to be making something like that here shortly. Clovis had a gorgeous jacket. So anyways, I agree. All Wolfpack members are winners to me too, Lynn. So we got to check it out. And I'll leave a link in the Angel of Patterns group too. All right. So don't forget to vote, guys. Vote for your friends. All right. Let's go back to the fabric. I want to show you a couple things here. I'll show you the pattern. And then we will go. Let me just hit this real quick. Yeah, and if I missed anybody, because I just glanced at it this morning, please leave a comment below. So when I post it in the Angel of Patterns group, I'll actually see what's happening there with you guys. Okay. So this is the fabric I found, 100% silk. It's not a Charmeuse. It's actually labeled Charmeuse, but it doesn't feel it. But you know what? I washed it, so it feels a little more suede. I think it's going to match this beautifully. When it's on the fabric, you can just barely see the fabric through, which is fine. This is how I label my fabric, in case you guys haven't ever seen this. This I bought on sale a long time ago. So I'll put silk, 2.5 yards at 45 wide. I put the SKU number, if there was a SKU number that I need to remember, and the price. So then I know, and I usually will just staple it to the corner with a small staple in the seam allowance because that's not going to hurt anything. But this thing is super wrinkled. See how wrinkly this is? I will show you how quickly and easy it is to press this. I also have my fabric cut here. I'm hoping it's the right length. Remember in the last live show, I wasn't quite sure. Let's see which way I got to go here for you. How long I wanted the skirt. So I made a new muslin, and here it is. Oh, it looks like it's perfect because I added 2 inches for the bottom here. Yay. Okay. So the skirt is fine. I also analyzed my fabric really well, and this is the wrong side right here. This is the right side. And you're right. The right side is just a little fuzzier than the other. Just a little bit. So I have that marked. I just folded it to the back because it's really hard to see this. I can't really mark it with chalk. I don't want to do that. And then let me make this a little darker for you while I'm working on the muslin. Here's my muslin. So here's the back. This is literally how I do this. I folded the back of my muslin because I know I might want to add a center back seam. I haven't decided if I want a center back seam or a side seam. When you have a center back seam, you have a little more option to take this in. Just say if you have a bigger tush, okay? A Brazilian, which I don't have, this, you could actually have this come out a little bit and take it in, which gives you an opportunity. But here we go. So here's my seam. And I know that I want to take this in just a little bit. I'll just use a Sharpie. So I tried it on. It fits great all the way up through here, and I want to take it in a little bit down through here. So since it's a muslin, I'm just going to use a Sharpie here. It really won't matter. And let's double check that I pinned it correctly on both sides. No, it's a little off. But this gives me an idea. So if you've ever pinned on yourself and you're like, wait, both sides don't match. Well, if your body is even on both sides, just even it out a little bit, like I'm doing here. Okay, so you see what I did there? I marked these. I'm going to open this up. Sharpie will show through on each side. So this is not how I mark a skirt, like that I'm going to wear. This is only for the muslin. I've already pressed up the hem and pinned it when I tried it on. So I'll take those pins out. Let's take these out now. If you missed last week's lesson, I showed you what pattern I started with. I'm using one that I drafted for myself that we did in Fashion Sewing Club recently. But I would use, this is very similar to, let's see, the fringe skirt. Very similar to the fringe. And you'll notice why. Look at my back darts. You see how the back darts angle this way? It's very, I think it's just very cute that way. Okay, so I'm just drawing a line over my dart. I didn't take that one in all the way, but it'll give me an idea and a guide. There's my 2 dots. Here's my center back seam. So I pressed my center back seam and I pressed my center front seam. It just makes it easier to make sure everything fits right, and you can make sure that it lines up correctly on your body. Now, if you look closely on my center front, I actually have a seam there. Why is that? Well, once I tried the whole muslin on, I made it bigger, thinking I had to add a lot of extra because that's not out of a Ponte knit, and I added too much. So I just took that in the center front, and it fit much better. I just realized I didn't put my wedding ring back on. I took it off so I could not mess it up while I'm carrying all this stuff upstairs. And carrying up all that stuff really did a wonder to my nails too, didn't they? Ay, ay, ay. Okay, go back inside here. The next thing I want to do is go ahead and cut. Unless I can see. Well, I can see it here. This will be fine. I like to cut my side seam here while the front and back are sewn together. Then I know they're going to fit appropriately. So I can see my markings here. I'm going to transfer them to this side. Even if the other side is not exactly the same, I will cut them the same, but this gives me just a guide. So I can see there, these match up. It's pretty darn close. Put a little X there. That seems to be where that starts. And one more little notch for my dart. All right. So this needs to be pressed as well before I can actually cut it because there's too much. I have my seam right there. I can go ahead and open up my dart. I used a basting stitch for all of this. At least I hope I did. Yeah. And if you have the PQ 1500 or you're going to get the PQ 1600 in a few months, you can actually baste your outfit together so fast because it has the 7.0 stitch length. So keep that in mind. All right, so those are out, but I still need to press this flat before I cut it. And then the last thing is I took this up. How much did I take up this hem? Looks like from the hem allowance, it's 3 inches. I don't need 3 inches. I only need 2. And since this fabric is a little pricier, I don't need that extra, but I do want 2 inches for my hem allowance for my skirt. So go ahead and cut off 1 inch. There we go. Okay, and the last thing I'll do is press this, not last, but I'm going to press this. When I go to cut this, I want to give myself some notches to follow so my front and my back match up. So go ahead and give yourself a few notches here. You can see them through to the other side. And you need a zipper. So on my front, usually my zipper goes on my left side, which will be here. I'm going to walk this down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 inches. But here's the key. You're going to need the zipper to end somewhere in the hip area. So if you've already fitted your pattern and you're like, you know what, I don't need, my zipper only goes to here. Well, if you open that, you're not going to be able to get it over your hip probably. So you really want that to be about 6 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll mark 7, which is kind of right on the hip area. And I'll put zipper, left side. I'm not putting any pockets in this. The tweed's already thick enough. I don't think I need to add any bulk to that area. So here will be my little slit for the zipper to remind myself. All right, so let me just move you to a different camera and I'll take you to the ironing board with me. I'll let you stare at my machine for a moment. So another sew along that starts tomorrow on Brother is my new grocery bag, which was the biggest hit this weekend. Yeah, fishing wasn't that great. I mean, we did fine. Actually, I should rephrase that. Fishing was awesome. Like as in amazing as far as the amount of fish. We actually caught our entire limit. Well, we were 3 short, but we could have kept fishing. The first day of the tournament got cut short, but at 9:30 we had 17 salmon. We could catch 20, but 17 salmon for the amount of people we had on the boat, and they were all 17 and 16 pounds. It was like the most fun fishing I've ever had in my whole life. So why did I say fishing wasn't so great? Well, you needed like a 20-pounder for the tournament. So we didn't do very well in the tournament, but fishing was absolutely amazing. That's all I could say. It was amazing. All right, so let me take you back here. There's the ironing board, and what I want to do is show you how I can steam press this. So just a little plug for Laura Star here, because I know a lot of you have this iron, and in case you haven't used this feature before, you're going to want to check it out. So one thing that I did use on this ironing board, let me bring you a little closer here. Brighten you up. And I've got my fabric and my muslin. Fashion Sewing Club, there is a discount for Laura Star in your Fashion Sewing Club website, just so you know. Okay, do you see these lines on here? Well, the reason I had a 3 inches, I saw this line here and this line here. So when I had my muslin, I just laid it here and folded it back along this line and pressed it. That was so simple, instead of having to measure all the way around. So they have these increments right on the ironing board, which makes it really, really nice. Looks like I've got some fusible interfacing on here too. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just press my muslin. So now when I go to cut this, it's laying flat. The seam's laying flat. We also need to press each dart open. I'm not going to press the center back seam or the center front seam flat because well, I guess I could. If you're going to cut your fabric on the fold, then you won't want to do that. But I like to have that marking. And I will press this center front one because I sewed that seam and I don't want any extra. Because what happens is if I don't press this and I go to lay this on the fabric, if there's a little extra room taken out of that seam, what happens? Well, you took that room out of your fit of your skirt. And this is going to be somewhat of a fitted skirt, a little shorter right above my knee, maybe about 1 inch above my knee. So I could not make up my mind if I wanted a long skirt or a short skirt. So I'm making both. I'm going to make a short one and I'm going to make a longer one, like a pencil skirt, because I love that black and white. And the other thing is I've got a lot of cute sweaters that would go with it. But first I'm going to do the shorter one with a longer jacket. All right, so here is my silk. And watch what I'm going to do here. Okay, so I have this huge piece. I think it said I have about, could be 5 yards. Fold it like this, fold it like this, and I'll fold it like this. All these folds. I'll lay it on top of the iron, give it a little steam. It will steam press all the way through all those layers with no problem at all. And as long as I don't use a clapper, there will not be, what do you call it? Creases. That's the word I'm looking for. Yeah, that was a crazy amount of fish, guys. And it was absolutely the most fun fishing I've ever had fishing, but just didn't get the big enough ones. So I guess the moral of the story is you can't always win, but it was sure a heck of a lot of fun. All right. I'm going to try to start this in the middle so it doesn't fall off the table. All right, here we go. Turn the fan on. So it's this button right here, turns the fan on. And I don't know if you can hear it, the ironing board. Make sure I have it on right. Sometimes I have to go back and look at the manual to remember what all the buttons are for. I think this iron could potentially make you breakfast. Not really, but. Here we go. I had to press it twice. Can you see how the fabric is blowing up? So the ironing board is blowing, it has a blower that blows the fabric up. So I'm not pressing the fabric to the ironing board. So I pressed this button twice in case you missed that. So I'm going through all the layers, and then the last thing I'll do is do this center seam that's over here. In the meantime, I can't see anything because my glasses are all fogged up. Do it this way. Slippery little fabric. So you can see how slick this fabric is. It's definitely going to be awesome inside my jacket, right? Okay, now the last thing I need to do is this center seam here. So my iron is probably, when I'm steaming, there's the bottom, it's blowing up. So it's blowing up like a good 2 inches. Yeah, almost finished. Yeah, so it presses through all those layers, steam presses, I have no wrinkles. So I only have one spot left that would have a wrinkle, and that would be the center where I had this folded. So let's take this. If I see any other little wrinkles, I'm just going to get them out now. You really need to have your fabric pressed before you cut, because one little crease like that can adjust the size. Now, if you're wearing an oversized outfit, it doesn't matter quite as much, but I know it's like a parachute, isn't it? So there should be enough here for my jacket and my skirt, but I've already planned if there's not enough for both. I want the skirt to have this. I want the inside of the jacket and the lower part of the sleeve. So if I have to do anything different, I will add some other, like a black fabric, maybe to my upper shoulder where nobody can see. By the way, are you looking at this fabric? Like, that looks like a soccer player. That looks like a ballerina. Is this people on here? I mean, I know it's just like a print, but okay, that's really funny. I'm sorry. Now, every time I sew this, I'm going to be laughing. Okay, I have no idea if that's how this fabric was meant to be, but looks like there's a diver. Oh, I think I need some more coffee. All right, so there we go. It's all pressed, ready to go. The only thing I'll have to do is make sure I know which side I'm going to use of this fabric, and it's pretty obvious that this is the right side. It's a little darker than the other. This is the wrong side. So I'll leave the right side facing up, and let's go back, finish our muslin, and go ahead and start cutting our fabric. Okay, so now I just want to know, what do you see on here? Is it like, Lynn said she sees horses. Yeah, I saw a diver. I saw a ballerina, maybe. All right, anything, a swimmer, volleyball. This is my athletic. My athletic. Hey, Bev, I saw your email come through. I'm going to email you one more time, too, by the way. And if it doesn't go through, I'll call you this afternoon because I have your code again for your embroidery design. You're looking for a discount. Who's looking for the extra discount? Bev, is there still a discount to Vogue Fabrics? Yeah, in the Fashion Sewing Club. You'll see it there. I don't think it expired, but I'll check with Rogie for you. And if it has, I'll try to get it extended because you've been tied up a little bit. Yeah, that ironing board is amazing. Mary Lou, I did not bring a banana. Otherwise, it would not have been so. We would have lost all of our fish. Oh, don't feel bad, Trisha. So does my mom. All right, so let's go. A gymnast. Yeah, birds and bones, a combination of everything. All right, so I'll take you here. Let me just move you for a second so I can bring you back to the table. So I was cleaning the studio, and I did not rehook up all of my cameras. So in case you're wondering why there's a pause, that's why. Now you know the rest of the story. Okay, here we go. Let's start here. Sounds like somebody's outside working in the yard. All right, so this was the area that we marked on both sides. You probably can't see both at the same time. So my body's even on both sides. So I'm going to lay both of these flat and trim them at the same time. So my right side is the same as my left side. But because it's pressed now, it's much easier. So I only took it in maybe 1/8 of an inch there, 1/4 of an inch the rest of the way down. The only thing you need to be careful of is once you get down here, not there, here. So I have about a 1/2 inch seam allowance here if you can't tell. Let me just trim this a little nicer. I could always take it in more. When I get to the hem, fold this up. I'll fold it under. You'll see it better. Fold your hem up 2 inches. That way, when you cut this all the way down, you'll see what happens to my hem. I tapered it a little bit at the knee. So see what happens? Goes down and then out. So when I go to hem, I'll turn this up and the hem will match perfectly. If I went straight down, then when you go to hem, the hem allowance here would be shorter in width than your skirt. So just a little trick for you. Okay, and any last minute trims here? That looks pretty good. So let's go ahead and open up our front and back. There's the zipper. Assuming you're using a hidden zipper, or put the zipper in the center back. It's totally up to you. And the only other thing I want to do is add a few notches here. And I'll do one right at the hem. After I do that, I just do a couple little snips in the side. And those will be my notches. All right. By the way, for those of you that were on the Brothers show yesterday, and I told you that Wynn was out working on a new deck in the back, or adding on to our deck, I should say, a DIY project. I told him what you all said, especially you, Phyllis, that said make sure Wynn's wearing a helmet. And he laughed really hard about that. Good news is he did not get hurt at all. Yay. All right, so here's my front. Looks like everything's laying pretty good. So this part here was the part that I sewed. So I will line up my center front here if I were to do this on the fold. Otherwise, I can just open this up and lay it on the fabric like this. And then here's my back piece. I just have one back piece because I just think it's easier to line up that plaid. All right, so let's see which way you can see this the best. That's the back side. Here's the front side. If I didn't cut enough fabric, I'll do just one piece. You'll get the idea of how this works. Now, it's best if you can lay this fabric onto a grid like this, cutting mat. And you really want to check to make sure that your plaid is straight. Well, it's not really a plaid, but my print is straight. And you really can only do that by grabbing a ruler, or I'll use my little cutting strips here. I use these all the time. They're awesome. Make sure your fabric is not falling off the table because that will skew it. I'm going to check down here, make sure that this is lined up. That looks pretty darn good. I should do a grocery bag out of this fabric. That might be a little too matchy-matchy. I think, was it Cindy Ball, maybe yesterday you asked if the grocery bag project that starts on Brothers page tomorrow, is it for beginners? Absolutely. I walk you through it. I actually add a few extra things in there like embroidery and fills. But if you don't have embroidery machine, or don't want to embroider, I give you other options. And it even includes a little quilting. Okay, that looks pretty good. Check one more side here. I think this part takes longer than everything else, is just making sure that your fabric is straight. Because if it's not straight when you cut it, guess what? It's not going to be straight when you wear it. Okay, I'm happy with that. So why don't we cut the front first? And we cut this, so my 2-inch mark will be at the white mark, but I wasn't sure exactly where my hem would fall. So let's just fold this up on the bottom side. Remember, I wanted the white to be at the bottom. Boy, that's awfully close. That looks good. Is there enough to cut my whole front piece here? Hopefully. Oh, no, there isn't. I have to go this way because I can't cut half of the skirt out. I mean, half of the front. That won't work. All right, let's fold it this way. Yay. Like I said, this part takes, I think, more than the whole entire process. That looks good. A little more. Again, making sure that my fabric isn't falling off. I'm using a smaller cutting table here. So, which is probably what most of you will be using. And this is literally how much time it takes to make sure that your plaid or stripe or print or whatever is laying straight. And you really need a straight edge. Don't just eyeball it, because this is straight. So I can see there's actually a prominent white thread running throughout this fabric. When I lay this down, if that white edge is not exactly straight on there, then I know that it's not perfectly straight the way it needs to be. Okay, and now let's lay this flat. It looks like we have our 2-inch just fine on here. So if I mark this right at the bottom, my folded edge will be right at the bottom of that white. I know you can't see my finger there, but you just have to trust me on that. I can bring you down just a little bit to show you. Hold tight. Here, when I fold this, so this includes my hem allowance. When I fold it up, this will be my pressed edge, which means the white will be against my knee. If you missed why I'm doing that, we did that. We talked about it last week. So resort to the last episode. Okay, so the other thing I want to line up is my center front here. So if I were to line my center front up right here, that's not going to work. So I either need it in the center of the white or the center of the black. So I'm going to do the center of the white. And again, there's a white prominent thread there. You might not be able to see it. Let me see when I open it. Did I give myself enough room? Just enough. So I know you can only see the bottom of the skirt right now, but it looks pretty darn straight to me. I'm just going to double check one more time for the center front. Just use my clapper to hold everything in place for a minute. All right, so before I cut, do you have any questions? So the first thing I'm going to do is cut the fabric, and then I will take the lining and lay that flat, and I cut the lining just a little bit bigger than the skirt. 2 reasons. 1, I'm quilting it, and 2, I'm going to be hand stitching my seams inside, and I like to have just a little bit of extra of that silk inside there, which you'll see. Any questions about that before I get rolling and cutting? Nope. Oh, what kind of? Oh, Phyllis, I'm just making very similar to, I just had the skirt here. Very similar to the fringe skirt, except no fringe. Oh, thanks. At least I try. Oh, yeah, Marcia. That's usually a grain line deal. Oh, hey, Darlene, I got to hear about this. She wore her lacy top to a festival. You know, I cannot find my lacy top. I'm going to have to make another one. Hey, Karina. Actually, I was talking about you earlier, Karina. You missed it. Mildred, you can pick it either way. I like to have that white band at the bottom. That was my own aesthetic for how I wanted it. You could do it either way. It's totally up to you. Oh, I know, Lynn. That fringe would make a very good. I think I actually have it. Hold on a second. Let's see if I can share this. It's up on my screen right now. Excuse me. This is the skirt that I'm making. That fringe would look pretty darn good on there. Well, like I said, I have enough fabric. I could make another one if I decide, but I didn't want fringe on this one. Oh, Phyllis, totally. All right, any questions before I start cutting? Hey, Karen, welcome. Oh, Danny, you almost bought that. Hey, by the way, Danny, good luck in your competition as well. All right, so I think that's good. I know, I don't know where the time went. We're already at an hour. What causes a skirt to ride up when you're wearing it? Fit. Fit would be the big deal there. You need to make sure you have enough room in the hip area. Otherwise, when you sit, it will always ride up. You're right, Mary. I wouldn't have to hem if I add that. Angie, I still have that pattern with the booklet. Yes. If you want me to hold it for when you come here, I think I've got like over 24 of them. So no worries on that. Oh, I'll work on it, Patty. I'll work on it. Yeah, Karina, the fold is the hemline. The fold is the hemline. All right, back here. I'll save one for you. All right, so because I put everything away, bear with me for 1 second. I need my pattern weights from Joe. So I had a great conversation with Joe yesterday. You all know Joe Vaccarelli from French European Ink, and we have chosen our Christmas special day, and we're going to make it a birthday/Christmas special. So remember my birthday week that we always do a lot of fun sewing things? That's going to be the big giveaway week. So mark your calendars. My birthday's the 29th, which we'll have a fun live show then, and he's coming on the 30th. At 1:30 p.m. Eastern. So mark your calendar. Don't forget. All right, let me see if I can just bring you back just a little bit so you can see this whole process. Don't get seasick. A little more. There you go. You can see almost everything. It's a little cockeyed, but just turn your head. Just want to make sure. I see this is a little skewed right here. I just want to make sure that nothing. No, it's lined up. Center front. No, it's not actually. Goodness gracious. I start talking, moving around. There we go. Now it's lined up. Going right down that center white. Unless you think the black would be better going down the center. No, I'm going to go the white because on my jacket, I'm going to have the black down the center. So my jacket will be butted up like this with a little white because my trim, I think. Oh, shoot. Which one? Do you guys want the black going down the center or the white? All right, I'll go black. I didn't even check to see what you voted. I just decided to go down the center black. So here's this, and here's this. So if you see Joe at one of the shows, this is where I got all these. Some of them still have the price tags on. They're like $16 or something like that. So nothing crazy. Now I also want to serge the edges of my fabric before I sew it together. So I'm going to cut just a shy hair right outside of my pattern here. Because then when I serge it, it gives me just a little bit of extra room and I can still have a 1/2 inch seam allowance. A lot of times when I sew something on the couture or add a touch of couture, I will use 1 inch seam allowances, but I'm not going to do that here. 1/2 inch will be fine. So I trimmed just a hair outside of my pattern. See how it angles back out at the bottom? And I better double check which side was the right side. The right side is facing up. All right, cut off at the waist, which you probably can't see because that's way up here. But my front is finished. And I'm just going to go ahead and put a pin right here to give myself a guide that this is the front and this is the front. Now, because a tweed can fray, I've got these notches right here. I don't really want to snip inside of this, especially because it can fray. So I can either use a thread tack. Sometimes I'll use just a piece of red thread and just mark that. A lot of times I'll keep the pattern on hand, so when I go to sew this, I can line it up. But here's the deal. Because we've already cut our side seam to match our back side seam, it should be pretty easy to line up our plaids. And that's really how we'll know that everything is matching up correctly. All right, so that's the front. See how much fabric you have on the side to take off. Sometimes you can use this as part of your waistband. It's enough for the front, but not the back. There's the front. And I'll go ahead and cut my lining because that will be, if you're going to sew along, that will be the next thing you'll do. You'll cut your back, of course. I don't think you need to see both of those. And then let's cut our lining. Before we run out of time, how much we have? 6 minutes, no problem. So this is the right side right here. So I want to cut my right side facing out. So this is the right side. Let's turn this facing down. So my right side is facing away from my skirt. So this would be my right side here. And this is my right side. So you can use your pattern or your skirt pattern. It totally doesn't matter. But before I move this too far, I'm going to put 2 pins on the back side of my skirt so I know which side is the wrong side. Okay. Actually, I'll put another one this way just to make sure they don't fall out. That's my wrong side. This is my right side. If I screwed it up, I better figure it out before I sew it together, right? Still looks the same. Okay. Lay your lining flat, making sure that your selvage lines up straight. So I'm using my cutting grid as a guide to make sure my lining's laying flat. Now, there's a lot of fabric here. I just want to make sure if it falls off the edge of the table, you don't want that because it will skew your grain line. And while I'm doing this, anyone else who has outfits in the SMP Nation, let me know. I'm going to post this in the Angela Wolf Patterns Facebook group. And Zena, I know you're not on Facebook, so I will make sure I mention your name in there as well. All right. Here's our skirt pattern. Wrong way. Oh, so a couple things. You don't need to cut the lining as long as your skirt. So I'm going to remove my skirt fabric out of here. So how much do you need? Well, when I turn my hem up and I sew my lining, I like it to have a little bit of extra here. So take this edge here and slide your skirt down 1 inch. You have a 2-inch hem allowance, right? Slide it down 1 inch. I'm going to grab my measuring tape just to make sure that's accurate. You know, I eyeball everything, but this needs to be precise. And let me see what's underneath here because there's a lump under my fabric. Oh, that. Okay, here we go. Again, make sure your fabric isn't off the table at all. So this is the lining piece, and now I'm going to cut about a 1/2 inch outside of my seam allowance. And you'll see why later about that. But let me grab my ruler just to make sure my 1/2 inch is accurate. Or 1 inch, I should say. 1 inch. Nope, it's a little bit too much. I thought it looked a little too much. That looks like about 1 inch. Yes, and yes. So my hem allowance is 1 inch below. Make sense? All right, and here. Now, depending on how sharp your blade is on your rotary cutter, when you go to cut silk, if you have any little snags, be real careful when you lift this up because your silk can snag really easy. So I've cut about a 1/2 inch outside of my hem allowance, which is fine because we're going to be sewing our skirt together and then hand sewing this section here. So this is not going to be a skirt that you'd finish like in a day. Well, you could, but on my sew along, it's going to be a few weeks. All right, make sure there's nothing under here if I'm going to use a rotary blade. I've got a lot going on this table over here. And I don't want to accidentally cut fabric that shouldn't be cut because I don't have a lot of it. Of the lining, I should say. Rephrase that. All right, there you go. 1/2 inch. And here you go. I'm cutting even to the waistband in case you can't see that from where you're at. All right, so let's see again on this one. The right side was facing down. We'll go ahead and put so that's the right side. This is the wrong side. I always put pins on the wrong side. If I start switching it around, I get way too confused. All right, so there you go. So my front is finished. Next, I'll cut the back. And that's all you'll have to do before next week. Next week, I'll show you how I quilt together the fabric to the lining. It's kind of a cool process, but there's a few steps before you do that. So there's my lining. And what did I do with my skirt? There's my skirt. I think this is going to look super, super, super cute together. See, I can't even see those pins. Here they are. So what do you think? Looking good so far? I'm going to have to give it an A for effort. All right, so what do you have for me for questions before I let you go? This is going to be super fun. So here's the deal. If you're doing this skirt, be sure to tag me. So if you're on Instagram, I'm under Angela Wolf Fashion. If you're on Facebook, you can tag me there or post it in the Angela Wolf Patterns group. That's a Facebook group that everyone who sews Angela Wolf Patterns can be in. It's free. Also, Fashion Sewing Club, that's a whole different group. But because I'm using this pattern here, or at least that's my base for it, it could also be part of the cape skirt. Any of those skirts would be fine. But as long as you're not using a different pattern than one of mine or one that I taught you how to draft in Fashion Sewing Club, I would love to see it in the Angela Wolf Patterns group. So everyone can get inspired by whatever fabric you choose, right? Okay, so any other questions for me? Otherwise, so just so you know the schedule for the week. Tomorrow on Brothers Show is at noon. We're making that super cute grocery bag. And it's not here. There's fabric over there. But tomorrow I'll go over the supplies and what you'll need for that sew along. It's going to be really fun. The sew along will last the whole month of September, which is National Sewing Month. So we're going to quilt. We're going to do some embroidery. Don't worry, if you don't have embroidery. I'll give you other ideas to embellish. We're going to sew the straps. We've got, what else is on that bag? A lot. A zippered top. So it's a grocery bag, but I've been using it to haul food back and forth to the boat. So I think it's going to come in more handy than I thought, which is, I'm glad that we're going to make another one. Oh, Janelle, I think that would look fantastic. I hope to see you there too, Bev. Oh, Lois, I'm so glad. Thanks, Jackie. A plaid boucle is my absolute favorite, Ellen. My favorite. I think before our show next week, I will redress all of my dress forms in all of my tweed touch of couture jackets. How's that? I'll definitely do that. Yes. Hey, Glenda, are you going on a cruise anytime soon? We live vicariously through your travels, just so you know. Oh, Ellen says hey to Sharon. Hey, Sharon. Oh, here, Danny, what do you got? Andrea mentioned she's using a silk fabric. Which one is it? The beige or black and white? I'm using, the silk fabric I'm using is a silk Charmeuse, although I washed it so it feels more suede now, and I purchased it a long time ago, and it's black and white. When I went back and forth with some of those other colors, I just thought the black and white would look nicer. Okay, any other questions? Or I'll let you go. I hope you have a great, oh, you're going on 10/7. Okay, Glenda, keep us posted. Donna, the Brothers show that starts tomorrow for the bag is at 12 Eastern. So it'll be 11 Central. And you'll be able to see the rerun. It'll be on Brothers YouTube channel. In fact, I put the announcement up yesterday. So, and I also put the announcement up for our part 3 to this sew along on my YouTube channel and Facebook. So if you go to YouTube on my channel, you can click save and get reminders to when our live shows are, and for Brother as well. All right, any last minute things? Otherwise, I'm going to let you go. You're welcome. You're welcome. Oh, Patty, the beige is the muslin. Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Patty. Danny, that's the muslin. Oh, Darlene, you didn't miss much. We just went over all the fabrics. So everyone have a great day. It was so nice to see you. And if you have any questions, you know how to get a hold of me. Tomorrow, we have the show at noon with Brother. And then tomorrow at 2, Fashion Sewing Club. We've got our lesson. We're starting something new. The whole last month, we've been doing skirts, although this is kind of a skirt. Anyone who wants to learn more about fitting skirts, things like that, you can still join the Fashion Sewing Club and catch last month's activities. But we're going to start something new tomorrow. So hope you like it. And in the meantime, if you need me, you know where to find me. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Talk soon.